My guest this episode is a guy who is incredibly hard to define. You might know him as a singer, your mum and dad might know him off the telly, and your son, daughter, niece or nephew may know him as the author of a highly successful children's book. This is Bressie.
Brez, I've been going to your gigs since 2007. We're here in Wexford now, and I remember you playing out across the bridge in the Riverbank Hotel. And for some reason I seem to think that there was 2 gigs, but my friends have told me there was only 1. And going back to your gigs then, they were raucous affairs because there was so much energy in the first album and it was wild and everybody was pissed up. Always loads of young ones running them up because they all fancied you. So it was just wildness. And I remember you used to start with Miss Fantasia Preaches and it would all just kick off. Like that's 12 years ago now, right? What do you think, would 2007 Bressie have expected 2019 Bressie to be in the position he's in now, given how varied your career path has been since?
The one thing I don't do with career paths is conform. And I think a lot of people, we've created this kind of society sometimes where when I was in college, when I was going to college, all the parents wanted you to work in banks. You had to work in a bank. Go to do commerce in college and work in a bank. That didn't work out very well for everybody a couple of years later. So I don't believe that you should actually set too many kind of strict intentions of what you want to do. Goals are grand, but I suppose what I'm saying is I'm very lucky that I was brought up with parents who kind of just told me to do whatever I want, go for whatever I want. And luckily I don't have kids. I don't think I have kids. So I have no responsibility. So I'm lucky that I have the free will to just try different things. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I also don't give a shit if it doesn't work out. I'm not one of those people who gets paralyzed by fear. And that's important because in the creative industry, you need to try everything and anything and not worry too much if it is or is not a success.
Like, you've done so much though, like without licking your fucking arse, like you're a proper Renaissance man. So like, pro rugby player, successful musician, you own a successful business in Camden Studio, been on the TV, you're a published award-winning author, and you've now got a master's as well. Is there anything you're absolutely shit at?
Oh my God, I can't dance for shit.
Because you make the rest of us look so bad in every way.
I am the worst dancer. Part of the brain, and it's so funny because literally year after year I sit and I wait for that call from RT going, will you do the dancing show? I was like, lads, I'm telling you don't have the insurance for me to do a dancing show. Under no circumstances. It's part of my brain that does not work, full stop, and I'm not even going to try, and I get really fucking self-conscious about it as well.
Do you cook?
Yes, I love cooking. I've always cooked.
The
But I had to cook because I eat so much. So when I was playing rugby, I was eating, God, it was like 5,000-6,000 calories a day, and you get very bored eating pot noodles if you have to eat 6,000 calories of pot noodles. Some people would love it, but I kind of very quickly, once I got to college, learned how to cook, and I certainly know how to eat.
Going back to that time again in 2007, like when the Blizzards first broke with the debut album and stuff, what was the goal back then? Was it like to be number 1 in Ireland with an album? Did you want U2 level fame, or was it just to ride the wave as far as you could?
We were just, initially, I came out of a rugby career not really sure what to do and fell into a music one really strangely. And what we did want, we wanted to make a record. I think people underestimate how difficult it is to make albums and how much work goes into making a record. We wanted to make a record. And after that, the one thing we used to always say is all we expect is opportunity. We don't expect an entitlement or we should get anything or should... We got to create an opportunity, and the way to do that is to make... The only thing we control is to make a record, to make it a record that we like, and hopefully people resonate with it. But everybody, all the bands wanted to break the UK. That was the first thing. That didn't happen. And, if you can go to the UK and try to break it yourself, but there's acts there who are huge push behind them by major labels, and even they can't break. So we were kind of realistic enough to know that we couldn't go and waste tens of thousands of euros doing toilet tours of the UK trying to break it. So it was a goal, but it didn't happen, and that's just the reality of music.
Where did the name come from originally?
I don't know. I do remember it. It's like at the end of the day, labels are very hard to stick or to get rid of. It was actually loading our gear out after I think our first gig in Banbriggs and Mullingar, and at the time my sister's boyfriend. It was piss and snow. We couldn't get anything into the car, and he just went, call the band the Blizzards. Fair enough. Because at the time, I think we were called Brave Star or something fucking horrendous like that. And I mean, the Blizzards wasn't a million miles. But at the time as well, we were doing quite a lot of ska reggae stuff. And we thought it kind of suited the vibe of the band a little bit, the kind of the Blizzards. So that's where it came from. We named it, couldn't get rid of it. And now 12 years, 13 years later, it's still there.
Quite a serendipitous kind of moment to base, a massive thing of your life on, really.
Yeah, what's funny, man, I'd say a lot of people who were in bands, if you ask them, can they go back and rename their band before they started, 90% of them will say yes.
I'm really sure, right, that I've crossed paths with you before. You must have been down in the radio station or something, because it feels like a dream that I asked you this question, and it was something I always wanted to ask you. And I think you were in a hallway or something, and I just blurted it out like a complete weirdo, and we got into a conversation about it. Have you still got that savage yellow Telecaster?
I have a 1972 vintage, all vintage Telecaster. And for those who aren't mad into the guitars, very rare. Vintage guitars are not cheap.
No.
And that was my dream. When we got our second deal, or we got our second advance, I was like, I'm buying a vintage Telecaster because it won't lose its value. Yeah. And I bought this, and it is literally still in my studio. It doesn't leave the studio because it's such an expensive piece of kit, and anyone can use it when they're in there. But I ain't bringing it on the road.
How much did you pay for it back then?
For vintage Telecaster, at the time I paid €4,000, and I'd say it's worth about 5 or 6.
Did you go to the UK for it? Or did you get it?
No, I bought it up in Blackrock in County Louth, the best vintage guitar shop, Danny Hughes. But what I would say is the people who go, oh my God, that's a ridiculous amount of money to play for a guitar. There's vintage guitars out there that are going for millions and millions and millions, because the thing about vintage guitars, if you keep them well, they don't lose their value, they don't depreciate. And if you look after them, you know, there's people out there with 66 Gibson Les Pauls that are selling them for 200-300 grand.
I know a fella found, I think it was a 72 or a 74 Les Paul in a pawn shop in the UK and got it for a bargain, and he's got it like it's worth about.
I'd feel guilty. I'd have to say to the dude in the pawn shop that, listen, you have to understand how much that guitar is worth. A 74 wouldn't be mad, Gibson. It's like wine. And actually, I'm
not sure. Yeah, there's specific years that were good. I'm kind of guessing. I'm nearly sure he told me it was a 70s Les Paul. Now I know it's the late 60s one that kind of tend to appreciate.
If you get down to the 60s, you're talking serious wad. Because the other thing is, if most of the guitars in the 60s were handmade. And then as it went on, guitars started becoming kind of factory made. So Fender especially. So if you can find the handmade custom Fender, Tele or Strat, you are making serious money off it.
It's like I spoke to Vince Power of Mean Fiddler on a previous podcast, and he spoke to me about one time what really got him his start in business. He was selling furniture, and he found a painting in a pawn shop, and he made thousands on it. It was like a Dutch master or something like that, and that was one of his first big coups. You know what I mean? So like,
man, sometimes luck is deserved, you know.
After 2 albums, you went on hiatus in 2009. Like, looking back now, I know you went solo afterwards. Did you have that in mind at the time, or do you regret going on hiatus back then, given the Irish music explosion that kind of came afterwards?
No, we had to. Life kind of got in the way, and that's the reality of being a band, and also the reality, financial reality, being a band. The guys with kids, that they raise their kids, they had to find a bit more stable income. This happens, you know, the perception is if your music's been played on the radio or you're on TV or you do this, that you're making serious money, and that's just not true. And that's just the reality of it. It's good fun, it's a lot of fun, and we loved it, but we weren't actually, it wasn't sustainable. So, but the one thing I did notice was I didn't want to go solo. I had no intentions of doing it, but I was living in London and I was fucking skint. I didn't have a penny. And I was writing these songs for other people, and I wrote a couple of songs. I was like, oh, you know, here we go. And they were like, oh, we really like these songs, but you have to release them. I was like, well, I don't want to release them. And they said, well, Sony said, we'll give you an advance if you put this out as a record. So, of course, at that point in time, I had no choice. I had just no money. So I took the advance, put a record out, went number 1. And the songs did really, really well on radio, but I really good pop songs, but not kind of songs that I personally
Can't Stay Young Forever. I remember it was the lead single, I think.
They're good pop songs, but they weren't what I would write for myself if I had a, you know.
You were doing it as if you were like in a writing camp
for other people. I think that I remember writing that one, I think, from a brief for Ollie Muirs. But I think Ollie Muirs would definitely not have played it because I think he's quite touchy about his age. So Can't Stay Young Forever wasn't over, but it was actually Breaking My Fall off that album that was number 1 radio in Ireland. I mean, overall radio, which was I've never had that at any level. With the Blizzards, even at the height of Trust Me,
wow,
it didn't get as much play as Breaking My Fall. So, but yeah, really good pop songs, but not songs that I personally thought I'd be playing on stage. But in no way am I putting them down. I just, you know, I'm kind of a power pop, rock, punk, 90s kind of rock band music was music I've always loved performing and writing.
You had an obsession with ABBA as well at one point.
ABBA are just my mum's philosophy in life that you should all listen to is never trust anybody who doesn't like ABBA, and I think that's a fair assessment of life.
Killer bass lines.
Killer melodies, and go back to the stuff people always listen to Mamma Mia and go, oh, I fucking hate ABBA. Listen to the name of the game. Something like that. Listen to songs like that. Listen to the records. These are the best pop writers of all time. I don't care what anyone says, these held the wins to the Beatles. For pop music, they were that good.
They say the same about the Bee Gees as well. I remember
unbelievable.
hearing a story one time about when Oasis were on tour, and Noel Gallagher said they stopped at a truck stop, and Andy Bell, who played bass and from Ride, picked up this like the best of the Bee Gees, but it was like the pre-disco era. And I found the bootleg. I think it was like just a thrown together thing. I found it online since. It doesn't sound anything at all like you would expect it to. Do you know what I mean?
think the Bee Gees, like I suppose, they heard disco and they kind of
jumped on it,
and did it really, really well. But you look back at their songs, like, you don't know what it's like to love somebody. Now that's how to write the perfect love song.
How Deep Is Your Love and stuff.
These
like
are top class songs. Like,
I saw a video going around online the other day of the three of them doing it a cappella on an old Des O'Connor episode.
I've watched that. Yeah, it is phenomenal.
Awesome. Did you find when you did the two solo albums that it was a lonely experience in comparison to when you were with the band?
No, because I had amazing guys in the band. A load of Irish lads in the band with me, from Ronan Nolan, James O'Brien, Julie and Greg were the others there, Scottish dude, and Norwegian girl Julie. She was awesome. So I got on really, really well with the band. It wasn't the same.
What about though when you were recording it?
Recording was actually quite nice, because the first record I recorded with Jimbo, who's the script producer, he's just had a #1, and me and him, that was our first record to kind of produce together. And I actually really enjoyed the process of working with him, because we were working day and night in my bedroom. Like, we didn't have a studio, like, we had no money, and we put that together. And then the band kind of came in, and I mean, the studio environment's changed dramatically since maybe when we did Public Display of Affection, which is it is like literally it's carnage in the studio for 4 or 5 weeks. You don't do it like that generally anymore. Audio kind of recording has moved on to incredible levels where you can do an awful lot of remote recording.
The Last Great Algorithm came out last month. First Blizzard's recording, 11 years? Am I right?
Jesus, that long? I think so. I'm going to say 10 just to make myself feel better.
Did it feel strange to be back in a writing and recording process, given you'd done so much between, say, the solo career and the latest Blizzard's record?
No, I mean, like, I write all the time. I own a recording studio in Dublin, and I spend a lot of my time just going there, sitting there, and half of what I put in there, I don't do anything with it. But writing for me is something you just do. You don't necessarily have to put it out. So writing the album wasn't a problem. The issue, I suppose, is that you have to write an album and songs that other people really enjoy in the band and dig off, and suits them as well, because certain musicians have certain styles and
limitations as well, of course.
Yeah, no, the Blizzards are all top musicians. Yeah, no, but you have to write music that suits what the band do. Like, I remember at start we were putting out some songs and we're like, fuck, that really doesn't sound like us. Like, like, we had this philosophy at the start of the album, and it was like, so, lads, some people actually do stay together, some people don't break up. Not every song has to be a minor key, but we do have this at the moment quite big algorithm vibe where songs that do well are generally the ones where they're sad.
Like, people say that when they break up and they listen to the radio, it's like every song on the radio is speaking to them.
It's about me, and there's that kind of weird before every line.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's now down to algorithms, as I say. That's how we get our music now. Whereas when I was growing up, you used to get suggested music by a guy who came in and goes, "Here's a tape, listen to this shit."
Yeah.
So I do think I think Spotify is brilliant. I really do, but I think it's important that people still learn to go and discover music for themselves, and different genres that mightn't fit in the algorithm, of what Spotify gives them. So go out and explore shit, different genres. There's so much amazing music out there.
It's not only new music from the Blizzard, it's also a new look. I know Louise is in the band the last 2 years or so, but did she kind of change the dynamic much? Like, were you kind of a little bit more hesitant to say own your farts on the tour bus now that you had a girl in the band?
We were on farting terms within a week. Let them go. Like, that's something that's dangerous to hold them in. I think with Louise, I've worked with Louise in terms of, she's a psychologist, so I've worked in that space with her for a few years, and she sang with us for a while. So the funny one with Louise was, I remember saying to her, we might need a bass player. And she was like, oh, well. I said, do you play bass? She goes, nope, not really. And then 2 weeks later, she came back. She goes, I know all your songs. I'm like, okay, you're in.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was that kind of mindset of like, fuck it, I'll give it a shot. And she also, she kind of holds the band a little bit to account as well. Like, it's good to have that dynamic in the band. And we all get on, and like I sincerely don't, and this is a rare thing to see for a band, I don't see how we would ever fight, which is a strange thing to say about a band. I haven't ever fallen out with any of them, you know. So that is, I think Louise has kind of created a very zen vibe with the band.
That's an interesting thing, because you would imagine, say, with the likes of yourself, you have such a large profile outside of the Blizzards that I'm not saying the lads would be jealous of it, but you know, there might be a touch of like, oh, here he goes again. Do you know what I mean? There's that.
Yeah, they know me that long as well, and they know that, like, they know the type of person I am. The reality is, there's perceptions of people, and there's people will have, this is what I think that guy is like, or that girl's like. None of us really have a clue. But the problem with social media is now we think we know everybody, because everybody lives their life through social media. With me, I don't really care. The lads know me well. They know me. They know that's not the way I am. They know it's part of my job. They know that somebody comes up to me after a show or wants a picture or wants, you know, they also know, like, I do things like I write kids' books, I write books, I do many different things. And when they break it down, I think they're quite proud of it. And I think they're quite supportive of it.
A rising tide lifts all ships kind of with the music career as well as other facets.
I think they're really cool about it. And I mean, it must annoy at sometimes. It's annoying because, like, you know, if you're out for a drink or whatever, sometimes it's nice just to spend time with people and not have to do that stuff. But it's part of your job. So if you don't like it, don't do it.
What's the story with Mullingar, right? Between yourselves, the academic, your namesake, and your mate Niall Horan. Like, is there some kind of Sylvia Young-esque stage school in Mullingar for music that nobody knows about? I know in Sweden they have those music programs that gave us like Avicii and Max Martin and, you know, ABBA. But in Mullingar, what's in the water? What's going on?
St. Mary's CBS drama school. No, there was definitely a lot of drama in the school, but it wasn't a drama school. I don't know. I think one thing, I genuinely think it's just coincidence, but I also think something else happens when somebody does well in a town or a regional town. It gives young people the ability to say to their parents, that's what I want to do. And it stops the parents going, well, you can't do that. You'll never
It legitimizes the career choice almost.
Yeah, I mean, well, he did it, so why can't I do it? And that is really important, because, as I said, when I was growing up, a lot of my friends were told, you can't do this, and this is what you need to be, and you have to go to college, and you have to do this. And the worst thing I think you can do with a young person is to squeeze them into some kind of career or some kind of trajectory that they're not too keen on doing. And my whole thing with young people is to empower them, is to go, listen, like, let's find what you love and let's help you be as good as you can be at that particular thing. And I think that's what music is in Mullingar. And I think generally everything in Mullingar, you have Michael O'Leary's, you have all sorts of people down there. You have Algar now, she's a massive actress, she's doing really well. She's like, there's lots going on, but that's the difference. It allows young people to say, well, I'm giving it a fucking shot. And, you know, if that lanky prick can do it, then I can give it a shot. And I think that's good. And I think we got to support that. And I think parents, as best they can, should try and support that and not force their kids into doing stuff that maybe their kids don't want to do.
Yeah, because it's never going to end well.
No.
Speaking of the academic, have you ever heard their track, I Thought I Told You, and the similarities between that and your Postcards track? Have you ever noticed that?
I there's a certain mood to it.
Yeah,
there's a certain mood to it. I think Postcards, the theme of Postcards is, I mean, it's not a million miles off, but I think it's funny with Postcards. It was written never to be released.
Really?
It was written for a friend who lost somebody and never got to say goodbye to them, and saying that was something that they could never get over, was the fact that they didn't get to say goodbye. And so the idea of the song was like, we wrote this song as of saying, this is this person saying goodbye to you, and this is the way it's going to be. And it was really simple. And I remember Kim coming home from the funeral, and we used to rehearse in Danny Burns in Mullingar at the nightclub. And I went up to the nightclub and I sat down with a guitar, and it was as if the song had already been written. I swear to God, it was weird. I sat down and started singing it. The lyrics just came out. The melody just came out, and it was the fastest song I ever wrote. And I then brought the song to my friends, and I was really nervous that they were going to go, oh my God, this is why would you do this? And I got this just a beautiful response from them going, this actually has really helped us.
Wow.
And that's where Postcards came from.
That was my probably favourite song off the second album, because I remember Trust Me I'm a Doctor had the hype behind it, and I remember it was your first lead single off that album, and I remember playing it on the radio and going, oh, the Blizzards are back. And then it was like Postcards was almost like the sleeper one. I don't know how much play you got out of it, how much success you got out of it, but
Never played.
I just
It was our biggest song. It was never played.
Yeah, I know we played it definitely in beat anyway, so I have to give us the props, but because that's where I heard it.
Yeah.
But I always remember thinking it being the sleeper one on the album, and I was like, I really like the melody. And when I went on an academic binge when Craig and the lads first came out, and I was going down all their EPs on Spotify, and I Thought I Told You came on. I was listening to it, I was like, that reminds me of something. It was one of those things, it's like unlocking a box in your mind. It was like, that sounds like something, I don't know what it is. And I sat there for 10 or 15 minutes, and I kind of threaded, I was like, it's an Irish band, it's the Blizzards, and then I was like, oh my God, Postcards. There's a real similar vibe to it. I don't know if it's the chord progression, if it's the melody. I don't know.
The chord progression is quite similar, and I think it's got the kind of dynamic, a similar dynamic. But yeah, I think it's a song for me that actually we're playing tonight here, that we've rearranged it, because I always felt the original, I rushed the vocal in it in terms the delivery seemed a bit, because the lyrics are so important. So we have a new version that we're doing tonight that I think is very, very beautiful, and it gives you a different kind of feeling when you hear it.
Okay, you won't be sending the lawyers into Craig and the lads anytime soon anyway.
Oh, here, listen, I tell you what, if I do, it'll be a 50-50. Then give it back to me and we'll go on a beer.
It's mad though how much, like, since you went on hiatus 10 years ago, how much Irish music has changed in that period. Like, when I was first on the radio 15 years ago, the only Irish music that got played on radio was U2, Aslan, and of that period, say yourselves and Republic of Loose, maybe like that. And now it's exploded. Everything from like the grime and hip hop scenes with Mango and Mathman to like electronica. Like there's so much of that around. And then like you've got Picture This, and even the Coronas are still around knocking out stuff. Like, what do you attribute that to? The burst of Irish music and the creativity that's come in the last 10 years. Do you think it's just people all seeing other people do it, or is it down to technology and the ease of use?
For me, it's down to one thing. It's down to the fact that Irish fans have got behind Irish music in a way that I've never seen before. You look at something as simple as 5 nights in the 3 Arena. Picture this. This is all because of people who listen and go to live music. So you can say it's Spotify. Spotify certainly has helped. It's created a bigger window. But Irish bands now, what it used to be, if you hadn't broke the UK, they were like, oh, you must be shite.
Yeah.
If you haven't done the UK, cares. No one cares about you. And you must be you're just an Irish band. And that's kind of, and you used to, we always had a following, so we'd always do like the Olympias and stuff like that. But the idea of doing a 3 Arena for most or any Irish bands apart from the likes of U2 back in the day, where it was just not happening. So I think what's changed is the mentality of Irish music lovers. They're like, they don't care where or who. They're like, I love that, and I'm gonna. And then what happened is also Irish radio started getting hungry to do that as well, and really, really started. When I say absolutely championing Irish acts, that started to push it as well. I still think radio has the power over Spotify, because I thought about this, like Spotify, for example. I was at a Spotify conference, and there was an artist beside me who had like 5 million streams of their single, but couldn't put 5 people in Whelan's, and that doesn't make sense to me. If you're getting high rotation playlists all over Irish radio, you can guarantee you'll have Whelan's, or you'll have the Olympia or the Academy stuffed. Because I think radio really drives that organic fan base, because with Spotify as well, an awful lot of people who'd be listening to that would be listening passively. Could just be on a playlist that's in the background.
The Irish have a real strange relationship with radio as well, in that I think recent figures have shown that out of 4.5 million of us, there's like 3.1 million still listen to the radio.
I love radio.
Day, you know?
I love radio. I still listen to radio all the time. I really hope what radio don't do is keep looking at streaming charts to make decisions. I think radio playlisters have to believe in their own ears and their own ability. And I think also what happens is music is very cyclical. Like for example, when we came back, I don't think there was any guitar music on the radio whatsoever. Guitars almost became illegal. And people go, well, there's Ed Sheeran. I'm not talking bands like Fontaines DC, like kind of pop, or they're not pop, they're a punk band, but they've really catchy tunes, incredibly catchy songs. When we first came out, the only music you really heard on the radio was indie guitar music, like Razorlight, like Kaiser Chiefs. You'd never hear that on the radio now, and we kind of fit in that bracket. So I think coming back, we if I mean straight up honest, we struggled massively with radio, and it just wasn't the same thing. And we're quite grown up, mature. We understand the scene. We understand music. We've been around a long time. We're 100% if a playlister sends us a message back on, no, the song's shit. 100% with that. That's fine. No bother with that. That's on the money. If that's how they feel. It's the bullshit that we don't like. The kind of bullshit excuses like, oh, we'll get no. Just if you're not into it, you're not into it.
Yeah.
No fucking problem. Yeah. But radio is still for me as a consumer. It's what I listen to all day. But I find myself listening a lot to like John Creedon, people like that, like old school. Amazing radio when you just put him on for 2 hours and driving home one evening, and he's just playing. He could play anything from Tom Waits to fucking Sepultura in the space of an hour. It's amazing.
It's the musical knowledge that's been garnered, like John Peel years ago. Do you know what I mean? Just had this wealth.
John, and it's the stories that come with it, and it's his ability to seamlessly fall in between. I'll tell you a great John Creedon story. I was in London one night and I was on my own in a hotel. I was like, we're only over for a night, and there was like a really, really awkward Tinder date going on across the way, and I was like, what? It was like as awkward as a fart in mass. I was watching it going, oh jeez, but I was listening to John Creedon on my headphones, and I tweeted John. I said, listen, John, I'm here watching a really awkward Tinder day in a hotel. Would you play Tom Waits for me? I took a little request. So before he played Tom Waits, he went in this monologue about what this couple could actually become and their kids and stuff like that. And I was going, holy shit. And I walked up to them in the middle of I had a glass of wine, and I go, by the way, just to let you know, lads, they're talking about you on Irish radio. And I put the phone beside them, and they were amazed. They loved it.
No way. I'd love to know where they are now.
I'd say they're well gone.
You're an entrepreneur of a sorts, Camden Recording Studios. How's that business going?
Good, yeah. Camden Studios, opening a recording studio just after the recession is literally the stupidest thing you could do.
I went to college there when it was post.
Yeah. They were selling it off, and they're going to be offices. I was like, fuck that, we need studios. And studios in Dublin are closing down very quickly, and they're also, most of them are colleges, and we kind of feel, we talk so much about the live industry all the time, also how important, how much money it brings into the economy, and it's all that, and it's great. But we really forget that we need that organic, where is music made, where is it recorded, how is it put together? And I'm not talking, we need to, this idea, well, I made it in my bedroom, grand, but I think there's something about recording studios. There's an energy there. You go in there with a band, a producer, and you go in there for a week or two. It's a special place to be creative. So I always had a dream from the minute the Blizzards made our first records to having something, any kind of recording studio, even just a fucking desk in my bedroom. And it moved. I worked my whole life and bought a lot of equipment over my life and bought a recording studio, and there we are, Camden Studios, and it's flying. And podcasting, we film there, we do videos, we do all sorts of stuff.
You worked for 19 Entertainment as well, or 19 Management or whatever at one point, didn't you? How did that come about?
I was signed to Universal Publishing, and the head of Universal Publishing, who signed me literally a month after signing me, get offered the top job in 19. And he said, I want to bring you with me.
So 19 is the crowd that are owned by Simon Fuller's the boss,
Spice
Girls and the
Victoria
Beckhams,
Beckham, all them lads, yeah. So yeah, he took me with them, and there was some experience, like Jesus, the opportunity was amazing. Some amazing people that I got to work with and see, but when you go into something that big, you become quite small. And I suppose a lot of it was just that I spent a lot of my time trying to fight for some form of as I said, I never expect anything to be handed to me, but it was a tough one to get full attention, because at the end of the day I wasn't making them the kind of money their other clients were making them. So but yeah, it didn't end badly, but I kind of ended about 3 years into The Voice. I was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm 19 is now not the number I'm massive fan of. And
like, were they just managing you, or were you like writing songs for people involved with them, or what way did it work?
Both, really.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean the side of it, an awful lot of the artist side. See, writing music's a different thing. It's very hard to write for established artists because they generally have their team. So for me, I was very interested in developing artists. So finding someone somebody finding somebody and saying, will you write with them for a period of time to get them signed? So I had done that twice, and I got 2 artists signed with big record deals, and then the label made an absolute hames of it. And I kind of was kicked to the curb with it, where I would have spent 12 months working literally for nothing, to get this artist to a point, and then being told, "Oh, by the way, we're bringing in this producer to do it." I'm like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a learning curve, and not something I'm bitching about it, because it's just part of my naivety, I suppose, going over there.
Is there a defining moment that after you were recruited to be a judge or whatever on The Voice, that you noticed that instant change in your level of celebrity, like walking down the street? I spoke to Emma Kerwin about this, and he told me that for him it was when he was on Fair City, that he played like a villain type character, and he'd have people scream at him in the street. Like, did you know, you're always known as Bressie from the Blizzards, like you're a tall guy, you stand out, you would have been stopped for pictures and stuff, but is there anything that kind of nailed you when you went, oh Jesus, this has completely changed?
Yeah, I there's a few things, I suppose. I remember one was, I was going down, I was outside, Toners there, and I was meeting mates. There's a group of guys across the road. It was like a Sunday evening, the show was on. It was a pre-recorded show, so I went for a drink with my mates. These three lads were shouting across the road, like really enthusiastic. Bressie! I'm like, hey, how's it going, lads? You're a fucking muppet. I'm like, at least they're watching. At least they watch the show. It's like, but I mean, it's, I think with The Voice, I remember one really funny moment of after one of the pre-record shows. Now, I'll be very, very honest with you. I should never have been given that gig. Like, really, to be fair, I was in a band that did relatively well in Ireland. I was hardly, like Keane Egan obviously was in this massive band, and then you had like these other, like Sharon Corr, who've sold millions of records, and me in the corner. But I remember getting a taxi into town after a show, and we were all going in for some food and a drink, and like there was about 5 of us in the car, and it was like Keane Egan, it was Sharon, I think there was another one of Sharon's sisters, wasn't Andrea, and a few other people, and like it was packed, so the back window was open, and like Sharon Corr was hanging out the window, and I just texted my mates and said, if I told you when I was 14 that I'd be in the back of a taxi with some of the Corrs and Keane fucking Egan, what would you think? And it was just the hilarity of it, and Sharon Corr like having the crack, and it was just, because we went back when we were 14, the Corrs are like, holy fuck.
Of course.
Jesus Christ, they're beautiful. So being in the back of a taxi going for a pint with the Corrs, with Sharon Corr hanging out of the window, having some banter, listening to fucking Dirty Dancing on the radio, like that, you don't forget that shit.
Around that time then, when the level of celebrity would change and you kind of became somewhat of a household name, like my man knows who Bressie is now, do you know what I mean, because of you were on The Voice, and my dad, who's like 78 now, would know who you are. Did you find it personally hard to kind of differentiate being Bressie off the telly or Bressie from the Blizzards and being Niall from Mullingar, particularly like in your personal life?
I massively struggled with that side of stuff, The Voice. The fact that I just found it really hard because it happened very quickly. Like it literally was overnight. It was a primetime entertainment television show on RT. I did not prepare myself for the fact that you'll go from nobody knowing you to where people call you up on the street or scream at you going, why the fuck didn't you put her through? So I wasn't ready for it, and it did overwhelm me, and I'm very open about that. I got used to it, but it certainly wasn't a part of it that I enjoyed. It was hard, and I think the other thing is this: people have this automatic assumption that they know who you are, or they own you in some way. Okay. Just because you're on television, there's an element of ownership. And I remember sitting in a restaurant or a bar with a friend, and somebody would actually grab me by my arm to drag me over to the table together. I went, you would never do that to anybody. But they'd be like, well, you're on TV, and I'm like, well, what is that? I'm also 6'6". I'd be very careful about grabbing some random guy very quick, I just found that strange, and I found my sense of boundaries were completely ignored by some people, and some people were absolutely beautiful and stunning and come up to you and be really nice and go, and I love that, and I love having a little chat with somebody. But the problem being is somebody has a few drinks and they can't hold their West Coast coolers, and they come in and they start getting mouthy. I found that idea that they felt that I in some way was part of their property, that wasn't enjoyable
because you were in their living room every week. Yeah,
and I get it to a point, but yeah, it's something that I found difficult. And I'm, when someone grabs you and you're out having a dinner, maybe some dinner with your parents, it's not your job. At that point, especially if you're, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with my parents, so these types of things. But generally, it was very positive and very supportive and very enjoyable. But I did find the speed of which it happened at very intense and overwhelming.
You spoke earlier about perception, and I know that's a big thing. I think you've been quoted before as talking about it. Like, I'd imagine it probably happened quite a bit in your, not only in your public life, but also in your private life, that people think you've changed because you're now on the telly. But it's their perception of you changes more so than you've changed yourself.
Exactly. That is it. I think some people think you've changed, or like to think you've changed, because it's easier for them in their own narrative to think that that's what's happened. I was always an arsehole, I used to say to the lads. I haven't changed at all. But yeah, it is something that people will say to you. But you know where actually it doesn't, like at home in Mullingar, there's still that general, they don't give a shite, which is lovely. Yeah. And you can be yourself there, and they know where you're from, they know your mum and dad, they know, like, my dad was in the army, he was stationed in Mullingar, they'd know him, they know my mum was a music teacher, they know my sisters, my brother, so they know you, and they know that you know who you are and where you come from and how you were brought up, and I think that is quite supportive.
I imagine the media intrusion must have been quite a shock as well, like paps hanging out in hedges trying to get a shot of you and a girlfriend, like, you know?
I that actually only happened once, and it was hilarious.
And did you spot them?
I did at one stage, and like, to be honest with you, it's to be absolute respectful to Irish media. I don't think it's really their style.
Yeah,
I don't think it's
more
really
UK thing.
Yeah, I don't think. You mean, obviously there'll always be a little bullshitty out of context headline, but I generally think the Irish media are quite. They're not going to throw you under a bus generally unless you deserve it. And they can. There's obviously the RC ones who are just trying to make a name for themselves, but generally Irish media aren't a bad old sort when you compare them to our UK counterparts.
You were once quoted as saying you wouldn't date yourself. Do you still hold that opinion?
Oh, fucking, I'm as odd as Christmas. Honestly, like, don't come near me. It's great. No, do you know what it is? It's just that I'm in I suppose a nice way, and people who have worked with me will say the same thing. I'm quite intense when it comes to creativity and stuff. Like, I'm always thinking of ideas, because I mean, you have to think, like, music's just a small part of my creative process. I write books, I write kids' books, I make podcasts. I do a lot of stuff that requires kind of creative output. So I could be thinking about something about the podcast, and literally 2 seconds later I'd be like, oh, by the way, I have to do, and I can be very like that. And in relationships, I don't change that much. I'm very like that as well, and I could imagine that could be a right pain in the arse. But also in relationships, one thing I do believe with them is, once I'm in them, I fully commit, and I'm I suppose an immensely loyal person, and because I'm that loyal and I take on that much commitment, I'm very wary of getting into something that I don't think will be potentially something I can actually, develop. So I've never been the type of person who just goes out, has a crack, and sleeps around and stuff. It was never part of my my own kind of psyche and conditioning. So yeah, if you find somebody that you feel you can commit to and be with and be loyal with, you're very, very lucky, and you shouldn't take it for granted.
Given the focus and speculation that was put on that in the past, like, obviously that would make you all the much more warier as well.
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you that's just normal human instinct. That's not, anybody would this be the same, but I've been in long-term relationships, and I think the most important thing you can do with any person in the world is have a relationship outside your family. It's a big, and I think it's really important to point out that relationships can be the thing that absolutely make you, and they can absolutely be the things that break you. In terms of a bad toxic relationship can be really, really difficult, or a supportive relationship, there's nothing better. So I think if you're in a relationship that's strong, don't always, we have this awful tendency to believe the grass is greener, and, oh geez, I'd love to be able to go out with the lads, or I'd love to be able to go on holidays with the girls and not have to worry about this shit. Like, when you break it all down and the pros and cons, if you're with somebody that makes you feel good, you're very fucking lucky.
Yeah, I've been in that situation before. I remember an ex once saying to me that she had a friend who was eternally single, and she was like, that girl would literally give anything for what we have right now.
Oh yeah, and that's, it's that level of intimacy and having somebody that you can sit home and scratch your arse having a curry watching Netflix with. You know, it's an important thing to have kind of companionship. That's maybe not your family. But then I'm also lucky that I have, you know, a handful of 5 or 6 very, very good friends. I mean, the work that I do, the running the charity, the type of, I suppose, area that I'm worked in academically and personally, you need people around you. You need life jackets, and you need a few of them. So I'm lucky that I have 4 or 5 people that I absolutely, not that I cuddle and have a curry with them and watch Netflix, but I absolutely trust them, and I'll use them when I need them, and they'll use me too.
So I was going to say to you is that, like, I'm only a few years younger than yourself, and I'm already finding that being somebody who's single with no kids, that I'm losing all my friends to family life and children, and, you know, they're doing their thing, and it's just harder to get people to come out anymore. Like, you're probably so busy you wouldn't notice that as much. Do you find that kind of
I find in the same way we talked about conforming with career and you have to do this and have to do that. I think, to be perfectly honest, I much rather be in the position I'm in now than be in a relationship where I feel suffocated. I think we can always believe that, you know, oh, my mates are having kids now, fuck it, I better have kids. You matter, like, literally go out and have a child because it's so silly to think like that, and it's so silly to believe, oh, I'm hitting 40 now, I got to get married, I got to buy a house, I got to do this, because that just fucks you up. Like, you don't have to fit into any box if you don't want to, if it doesn't feel right and it doesn't follow your instinct. And the funny thing about stuff like this is, if you go out with the intention to find it, you'll never find it. It slap you in the face one day, you won't even see it coming. But I do believe this idea that you have to be a certain thing by a certain age, and you have to be, it's tiring. Mm-hmm. And I don't really think like that anymore. And also, I still think I'm in my early 20s.
I think we all do. Nowadays, of course, the mental health campaigning is a massive thing for you. It's kind of like such, maybe not so for you, but the public's perception of you, it was a huge kind of off the course direction for Bressie from the Blizzards to go in. What was the catalyst in you opening up and being so honest about your struggles?
The catalyst was the fact that my struggles were 10 times worse because I had to hide them.
Okay.
And disguising them took all my energy, making excuses every fucking day with everybody I worked with all the time. That's essentially what kind of made it worse. So I finally one day said, I'm sick of making excuses about myself all the time, and I'm sick of pretending that there's not something consuming me all the time. And I had a panic attack, really bad panic attack, before a live show at The Voice, and it was at that point that I said I had enough of it, and I was going to actually deal with this properly. And the only way I could deal with it properly is to get it off my chest, that I don't have to keep hiding it.
What was the first step that you made in order of making it public?
Telling people.
Well,
I told my colleagues.
Okay.
And then I told my friends. My family knew, I suppose. Talking publicly came from a conversation where someone said, if somebody said something when you were 15, when you were that age, would it have changed anything for you? And I went, of course it would have. It would have made me realise that this is a very normal, shitty thing that I'm dealing with, but a lot of people deal with it. And the only mental health education I got growing up is when a teacher threw a piece of chalk at me when I asked him why Kurt Cobain died. So that was my mental health education. And I always promised myself, and I remember in a position to help people, young people, have the language to describe how they're feeling and what they're going through. And even a platform that not only should I have a responsibility to. And that's where it came from. And it started as a blog, and that blog became a website. That website became quite a big advocacy charity that's now building Netflix models for schools. That all grew out of one blog.
Wow.
And the other reason I did it wasn't just because of me. It's because we have a country and government and successive governments. I'm not blaming this government. They've all been just as shit as each other when it comes to building systems around mental health. We have a reactive model that is basically waits till we hit a point of crisis before we help people, which is inhumane. It's also inhumane because we don't have the systems to actually help them when they're at that stage. And also, we don't have adequate systems within our education models that can help young people realise what's going on in their fucking heads. And this is not rocket science. And that's why I'm passionate about it. And I'm not lobbying government. I'm lobbying people. We need to start voting on this shit. or we won't change anything. And if you don't think this matters to you, if you ever find yourself in a position as a helpless mother or helpless father, and you know that you can't get your child help, who is in the midst of fucking darkness, and you have to wait 2 years for that help or drive across the country, you will then give a fuck about it, and you will then vote on it. But the reality is, that's not how communities work. We have to care about everybody, and we have to realise that no mother or father should be put in that position. So these are things that I've seen since I've started working in the space of mental health and building an organisation. And the gloves are going to come off fairly soon because they're not doing enough. We still spend 6%, only 6% of our entire health budget on mental health. So, yeah, it's time to not get angry, to get clever. And I think that's where my passion truly lies.
Congratulations on the Masters, by the way, the recent completion.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Was it a complete headfuck going back as a mature student and sitting in amongst all these?
Felt like a creepy old guy, you know, like in old school, the guy used to go, but that's what I kind of felt like for the first week. And then I realised that was just the imposter syndrome in me, and I kind of got rid of that. And then I started realising a lot of people I was studying with were, you know, psychologists. I was like, oh, doctors, well, fuck, I shouldn't be here. And then I very quickly realised I had a very good grasp of what I was studying, because I've been working in this area for 4 or 5 years. And the one thing I found about studying the brain, the mind, psychology and mindfulness is I started to realise it's really our environment and our society and our culture that's overwhelming most of us. Our brains are actually deadly. They're great alarm systems. They've kept us alive this far. And I'm really interested now in what's right with people. What's up there that's going well for us. And really thinking about why, and really put my focus on that, because I think that can really help people.
You mentioned the blog. I remember reading that early on, and I was fascinated by your Forrest Gump technique. Run me through it, exactly what it was.
I used to have what often people would refer to as night terrors, and I would wake up. It was 2 things: night terrors or sleep paralysis. And I would wake up at 2, 3 in the morning, and I would get this absolutely overwhelming wave of panic. And I'd be lying in bed staring at the ceiling in the midst of a panic attack. And I remember saying, well, what the fuck is that? Like, it's adrenaline and cortisol flushing through my body. And usually with adrenaline, you need to burn it off. But I was just staring at the ceiling, getting more and more panicked. So I decided one night just to put a pair of runners beside my bed. And the minute I felt that little tinge of panic when I woke up, I fucked the runners on as fast as I could. I had the shorts on already, and I was gone, and I would run outside till I burnt that adrenaline off. Or I ironically, the harder I ran, the easier I found to breathe. And one night I ran the guts of a marathon, because I was just so overwhelmed, and I kept running and kept running. And now I've never ran further than 5k in my life, 10k in my life, and I kept running. And the chafing and the pain made me stop. And since that particular night, I've never had that night terror again. And I believe it's because they're terrified I'd run another fucking marathon. But I don't really care. And these are the things. These aren't things you read in psychology handbooks. This was just me figuring out how am I going to deal with this? How do I stop myself getting overwhelmed? And it was me taking some element of control. So I call it the Forrest Gump technique. I don't think it's a psychological theory or research, so don't go looking for it in a book.
How old were you at this stage?
Oh my God, I experienced night terrors like from all throughout my 20s. This is, I suppose, early 30s, I'd say. This when I started doing stuff like this. I used to do other things, like I used to get out and do press-ups or do something, and I used to try burn it off. And then I just started to think, I just have this immense energy all the time, and I have nowhere to put it.
Okay.
And part of me then believes that I went from such intense training as a professional athlete, where you're training 2-3 times a day and you're doing really high-end training, to not doing a lot at all, only gigging. And I felt I had all this energy that just was oozing out of me all the time.
Your body had become accustomed to...
Yeah. And even if that wasn't true, that my mind thought it was. So I had to kind of go back to finding a way of burning off that energy a little bit. Because creatively, it's not the same thing. I'm the type of person who just needs to move. And whether that's swim, run, cycle, punch bag, fucking whatever, I got to do something. And I find gigging actually a really great way to do that as well. I get really fucking tired after a gig.
No doubt the Ironman training really helped with that as well.
Yeah, and I think to be very clear about the Ironman thing, if you're using training obsessively to run away from something you do not want to deal with, And believe me, I've seen enough people do that, because a lot of people within the Ironman kind of world, they'll do everything except deal with the shit that they're trying to run from. And not all of them, but some of them. And I think exercise can become obsessive. And because it's a healthy pastime, we think it's okay. If it's becoming obsessive, it means that you don't want to deal with something else. And I always say you can't outrun this. You can't outrun that kind of that thing in your brain, but you can fucking change your relationship with it. If you have the bravery and the support and the ability to sit with it and find somebody who'll sit there with you. Then you don't have to run. And at the podcast, Where's My Mind podcast, that was the title of one of the shows, was we don't have to run. We don't have to run. And until the only way we're ever going to get to deal with mental health issues is to we figure a society that tells us we don't have to run, and we can figure out and sit together and find ways through this shit. So that to me was, the Ironman was also, when I did it, probably one of the greatest days of my life. And I think I cried for 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
I cried on my mother's shoulder for 2 hours, because it wasn't an Ironman to me. It was a different thing. It was, and I remember my mum just tapped me on the shoulder going, would you get the fuck off me now for the good thing? She had enough. I was that dehydrated from crying, but I couldn't stop.
It's funny you just talked about, like, you know, switching addictions and things and finding it to replace something. A great example of that was, have you read Duff McKagan's book?
Yes.
Guns N' Roses?
Yeah.
Switched out the drugs and the drink for kung fu or whatever, and then it was mountain biking and all that. Fascinating dude.
And like, still, to be fair to him, in that book, Duff, an awful lot of his friends still now didn't find a way. Scott, you know, Stone Temple Pilots, a lot of people he would have been very, very close to, Chris Cornell, these people who all fought and didn't quite get through, and especially within addiction. And I think he should be very proud of himself, because, you know, in the world they were operating in, it makes today's rock stars look like fucking Teletubbies.
I always tell that story to people, like 3 litres of vodka a day, I think it was, and then they told him to stop drinking vodka, so he switched to 13 bottles of wine.
Yeah,
that's what he was drinking,
you know, and I do always get scared when I see someone who drinks that much but's that skinny. It's always a bad sign.
It's a fascinating Kurt Cobain story as well, isn't it, where he met him at the airport. Kurt was found dead a couple of days later. He was going to ask him to come to the house and everything. So like,
I find that whole 90s rock grunge era utterly fascinating, and what happened to a lot of people during that time. We lost a lot of people, a lot of really, really incredible musicians, because addiction can get anybody, and that's the reality with it. It's something we need to change our perception of as well. Addiction is I've never met an alcoholic who wants to be one. You know, it's generally because they're struggling to deal with something else. So I think it's having a different perception of addiction, because I myself had struggled with it, and my sister is like, she's worked in addiction for 25 years. I have a very deep understanding of it and how it operates.
I know you're a massive advocate of meditation as well, and it's something that I've wanted to get into for the longest time. I've tried a couple of apps, I just can't get into the habit. My dad has done transcendental meditation since I was a kid. I vividly remember him going to classes in a hotel and coming down and saying he was going to sign up for it, and he's sworn by it like for a good chunk of his life. What did you take in the initial steps? Did you struggle with it too, or?
I couldn't. When I concentrated on my breath, I'd have a panic attack. And I started working with the guy, and he was like, Niall, it's been around 2,500 years. There's a bit more to it. And I was like, okay. I said, well, it was actually, to be perfectly honest, when I started studying the Buddhist psychologies, that I started to understand why I should meditate. In fact, meditation is not about achievement or getting anywhere or being a good meditator. It's about the complete opposite. Everything in our life is about judgment. It's about striving. It's about getting somewhere. Meditation isn't about none of that. It's about the ability to sit with shit you mightn't want to sit with, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and just not judging yourself. And we are not programmed to do that. So the idea, there's John Kabat-Zinn, who would have been the godfather of mindfulness meditation that we would have studied, says there's these kind of golden rules of meditation. The first one's non-judgment. So I don't want to hear this from you. I'm shit at this. No. Just for this 5 minutes, you're not outside that. Non-striving, you're not trying to achieve anything with this. You're just trying to sit and notice what the fuck's going on in your body. The next one is the fuck it bucket. Having that ability, the minute you do have a thought, you're not trying to stop thoughts, you're trying to stop following thoughts. So here's an example. You sit down to meditate for 5 minutes, and then you go, I forgot to ring Mary. Oh fuck, Mary's going to be raging. Oh Jesus Christ, it's going to be awkward in work tomorrow when I see Mary. Oh my God, will I get a pizza later on? Now you're down a rabbit hole. What meditation's about is as soon as you realize you've got to ring Mary, come back to the breath. And if you do that 1,000 times, that's 1,000 reps. Change how you look at it. So as Westerners, we've always been told that I have to be good at this, or I'm terrible at it. We've conditioned ourselves to be like that. So the beauty of meditation is you don't have to concentrate on your breath. You can concentrate on your body. You can use your body as your anchor. You can visualize. You can think of a perfect day, your wedding day, and just play it out in your head. I think it's a really useful way to get people into meditation. If you do struggle with it, it's box breathing. And there's an app you can get in your phone that's box breathing, and you look at it, it's a visual with your breath. And that can be really helpful to get you into the conditioning and what it feels like to anchor yourself at your breath. But meditation is not something that will happen quickly or easily. Be patient with it. 5 minutes a day, 2 minutes a day. Consistency to me is far more important than trying to sit there for 50 minutes and not pulling your hair out. I can't do that. And I'm 7 years meditating. So because I have an anxious mind, I never sit for more than 25 to 30 minutes. And I'll do that twice a day. And now I've done 5, 6, 7, 8 day silent retreats where I don't speak at all and I meditated all the time. And I lost my fucking mind. But that's the point. That's the point. You need to see what's it like to sit with this stuff. But here's where it's important. I know it's a long answer. Some people need help to sit with that shit. They've had traumas. They've had issues in their life. Something has happened. And that's where good psychological support comes in. Now, meditation is something that we keep throwing out there. Oh, you should meditate. I was abused as a child. Oh, meditation. No. As a meditation professional, my first role will be to pre-assess that person and go, actually, you know what? I think you need some other support first. And then we'll work through that for a few weeks, or the clinical psychologist maybe, and then we'll come to meditation. But a lot of people are now using it as the great panacea that's going to save everybody. It's not.
It's not a catch-all.
No, it is not. And it's not what people think it is. It's a psychological intervention. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of compassion towards yourself. And that's the key with it. But if you listen to my podcast, Where's My Mind? It's a 6-week podcast. It's a 6-week mindfulness program that tries to teach you the skill. Because it is a skill. And like every skill, the more you practice it, the better you will get at it.
I wanted to ask you about the silent retreats. What was the story? Like, where was it? Was it a foreign or was it in Ireland?
Well, my first 5 days of college of my master's was in Tullow in Carlow, silent retreat in a convent where we weren't allowed to speak for 5 days, where you were in silence, where you weren't allowed to read, where you took half an hour to eat a chip just to burn fucking time. And my family were taking bets how long I'd last. First day was horrific. Second day was worse. Third day was euphoric.
Really?
Yeah. And that was my first 5 days of college. Terrifying stuff. I was more terrified I was in an old convent, to be honest with you. And I do remember it was a very funny moment where we had to go for a walk around the convent. And this convent's also used for addiction counselling and supports. And I put my hood up and I went for a mindful walk, we used to call them, where you just walk really slowly and you feel your feet on the floor and you're really
aware.
Yeah, become hyper aware of your movements, and it's a lovely, lovely thing to do. And it was a lovely sunny summer's summer's evening, and there was an estate beside the convent, and there was 3 or 4 lads sitting on the wall, and I had the hood up, and they started screaming at me, "Fucking junkie!" at me, and I pulled the head down to give them shit, and they went, "Fucking Bressie!" and I couldn't talk because it was a silent retreat, and I remember my mentor kind of looked at me, and I just put the hood back up and I just smiled on my face. But yeah, it was definitely Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent retreat. It's certainly an experience, one I would not recommend jumping straight into without maybe doing a silent retreat for a day or maybe 3 days. Don't jump into the 10-day.
That sounds like heavy duty crack.
It's different. A lot of people go to India to do it and stuff like that, and they get out of their environment to do it. What you need to learn to do with this stuff, we all live here in this world, in this country. I live in Dublin. You need to learn how to find calm in the chaos, because we can't all climb up mountains and listen to well music and, have beautiful serene environments, because a lot of us live in cities or big towns. You need to be able to find peace where peace doesn't exist. And that's true mindfulness, and that takes commitment and effort. And I can happily sit in a bus for 20 minutes and just switch off.
Calm in the Chaos is a great album name as well. I'll write that down.
I was going to use it, but I thought it was a bit too obvious for me.
You wrote once as well about putting mental health on the Leaving Cert curriculum, and you spoke to the Oireachtas about mental health in young people as well. Do you think as a nation we're any closer to implementing something like that across the board, given how in vogue mental health is right now?
I don't know if you read the recent research from Jigsaw. Very, very, very powerful research that came out through UCD Psychology School, which is where I studied. This is the greatest epidemic facing our young people. It is an absolute fucking epidemic. The statistics, and I'm not mad about statistics because they sometimes dehumanize the real story. We are at a serious point of crisis now for our youth. And anyone in government or leadership who are not taking this as a priority, they are not leaders, and they do not deserve their power. And I have no political leanings. I'm not affiliated to any party. But right now, we have great awareness. People are talking. Young people are talking. We do not have systems. Our health system is not fit for purpose. I don't even refer to it as a system because systems are meant to work. We have amazing teachers, amazing teachers. We have some schools doing incredible work. This isn't systematic though. We should be having emotional literacy, digital literacy, media literacy, mental health. These are all core, crucial parts that should be prioritised in our curriculum. I also think the Leaving Cert's a great pile of shite. I do not think it's an adequate description of intelligence. I don't think it measures people's intelligence. It measures how good you are at learning. I think we got to be brave as a country now and figure out how do we help these young people who are really, really struggling. And what have we done? We've labelled them snowflakes. Stop labelling young people and start empowering them and start figuring out what the fuck we can do now, because we can do stuff, but that's where we're at with it. And I, for one, I'm very passionate about doing what I can do. And there's lots of shit I can, there's lots of shit I can't do. So I think the Lust for Life are doing a lot of stuff, and there's some amazing charities out there, and it will not be one charity, it will not be one individual, it'll be a collective response. But our government now have to see this as a matter of urgency and priority, and we got to hold them to account, and that's crucial.
In light of the amount of pressure that's put on the youth of today, particularly around the time of state exams like the Leaving and the Junior, certain things like that, have you ever used that commerce degree?
I didn't do commerce. I did economics.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Everyone thinks it was commerce. I did economics in UCD. I can't even spell it, to be honest with you. I'm a huge fan of education. I think education is the key and crucial part of society. That's why I'm quite passionate about it. But I'm more passionate about people following what they want to do within education and us serving that. But yeah, no, I've never used I have to a point. An awful lot of the work that we do around with Lust for Life is around economics, and how can we afford this? How do we build it? How do we kind of equate taxes from a macro and micro point of view? So I'm not one of these people who just shouts, "Fix it."
Yeah,
fix it. I'm also not one of these people who just goes, "Oh, we should just be ploughing all our money there." I understand how systems work. I understand how political systems work. I understand how health systems work. I understand how economics works. I am not somebody who just sat and judged people on a TV singing show, and that's why I'm passionate about it. And that's why I'm also quite excited about it, because I know the shit we can do, and I know if there's any group of fuckers that can do it, it's Irish people. We've shown in the last few years we've had 2 or 3 massive social movements, and we've held our shit together when everyone else thought we wouldn't. So I think we can do it, but it's going to take a huge paradigm shift towards where people are put first, and people realise one important thing: politicians are not your boss, they work for you. And we have to get that paradigm shift and stop using the word power when we talk about politicians. They work for you. Hold them to account now.
I found it really interesting what Lewis Capaldi did, where he had a qualified team of counsellors at each of his gigs. Did you hear about this?
Yeah.
When he did the arena tour. And I know the Anna Liffey Drug Project do great work at festivals nowadays in terms of, helping people with recreational drug use and kind of calming them down if they're feeling in a bad place or whatever, and advising them on the drugs they're taking. I would have thought by now that mental health would have been addressed in a similar vein at summer festivals and things. If Lewis Capaldi's doing it at his arena tour, I'm surprised it hasn't caught on more, given how of a wave there is about that.
I think there's also the Pandora's box idea. People are afraid to go, how far do we go? What do we do here? How do we support? I I think we have to realize something and stop thinking that our children, our kids, our youth are, I did bad things. You did bad things. We all do bad fucking things. I didn't have people documenting it on a camera phone, but I did bad shit. And young people will always do stuff. And sometimes that stuff can be dangerous. But if you're an adult and you think that shit doesn't happen, then you're absolutely naive. And we have to open our eyes and ears and understand that. Same with drug addiction. Anna, if what they're doing is incredible, I absolutely believe in what the work Lynn Moran's doing. I don't believe criminalising drug addicts is this is a health issue. It is a health issue. Emma Kerwin speaks about it too. The only people who say it isn't are people who don't fully understand addiction. And here's another really important thing. The last 10 years, we've had these amazing social movements that I believe have massively progressed our society and opened our eyes. But it was all generally based around equality, which I believe in purely and utterly and always have. I was raised that way by my family. But if you believe in equality, these big corporate companies that had pride flags hanging out the windows was brilliant. It was great to see. But if you really believe in equality, where's your belief in socioeconomic equality? Our country doesn't have that. We have rampant inequality, and equality is the best form of therapy. And the work Lynn Moran's doing around addiction highlights this. People who judge people who have drug addict, who might have heroin problems living on the street. A lot of you do not know what these people have come from. They've come from vicious circles of poverty and inequality. They never stood a chance from day one. And if you actually look at a lot of psychology, the first 1,000 days of a person's life can have a profound dictator of their mental health. A lot of these people were born into poverty. They were raised in poverty and find themselves in dark places. We have to look at this differently. This is, and the reality, I say to Lynn, I was brought up in a regional town in Mullingar, army officer father, music teacher mother. I was lucky. I was very lucky. But I am also massively passionate about people who mightn't have had the same maybe supports I would have had. So we have to believe in equality across all elements, not just gender, not just marriage, in all aspects. We not just within sexuality. We got to believe in equality at every level and believe that people who have no homes, who live in hotels, who can't afford to feed their children. If you want to give a fuck about equality, you got to give a fuck about them as well.
You're a successful author as well. Me and my mate Jeffrey won an Irish Book Award for you a few years ago. Did writing literature come easy to you, given how personal the subject matter was? Did it just flow, or did you find it difficult?
Yeah, I always loved writing. English was always my favourite subject. I've always adored just penning shit, just writing it and getting it out of my head. I think English is a stunning subject. I've had really good English teachers, but I'm certainly not a good writer. I'm a very honest writer. I don't try to tart it up. I don't do Oprah Winfrey quotes. I don't do As Dark as Before the Dawn. I'm just quite straight talking when it comes to writing. I don't pretend to be anything other than that. But then when you read a good writer or a brilliant writer, Colin Tobin was honoured at the Book Awards on Wednesday night. I was at them, and I just they were reading out parts of it, and then Fintan O'Toole was presenting the award, and he started talking. I went, oh my God, this is beautiful stuff. So I love brilliant writers. I love brilliant writers, and I read 2 to 3 books a week. I'm a massive believer in reading books. But writing, I'd like to get better at it. I'd like to get better at creative writing and maybe fiction.
How did the children's book come around? I have to ask this. This is something that was fascinated me, that Bressie wrote a children's book.
Delayed train from Cork to Dublin. I wrote that book after a conversation with my nephew Billy, who's 6. That simple.
Wow.
Don't set intentions. Also, I was studying at the time. I was doing my kind of research pieces on young kids' minds and brains and how they process the world and how they see the world and what happens in their brain. And I was very curious about it. And I was like, you know what? Fucking kids just need little avenues or little vehicles to be able to talk about what's going on in their head. And we always assume with kids, don't talk to them about emotion. Bullshit. They're well able. Don't start talking about heavy shit now. But telling a kid what anger is, what worry and anxiety is, it's not going to make them anxious. What's going to make them anxious is if they don't know what the fuck it is. But saying to them, say, Mummy gets anxious too. I'll tell you a little thing you can do when you get anxious. It's a really cool little trick you can do. Kids are like sponges. That's when you talk to them. And that's what the book's about. Of 2 books now, and I have another book, just finished writing a 3rd. And it's just give them an emotion, tell them the emotion's normal, and teach them how to deal with that emotion. And when they're 15 years of age and that emotion starts playing fucking havoc in their head, they know exactly what it is because they've been talking about it since they were 5 or 6 years of age.
It's normalised at almost.
Normalised, yeah.
What kind of reaction did you get from people who knew you when you told them you were writing a kid's book?
They weren't surprised, to be fair.
Really?
The type of lad I am, yeah. They were like, yeah, fucking, here we go. What's next? I'd love to tell you what's next, but I don't know. I am that type of person. As some people say, throw as much shit at the wall and see what sticks. But what I say is, you know, sometimes when you set out with intentions to do stuff, you won't do it. You'll get paralysed by, you know, fear of failure and all that crap. Just fucking did it. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. If people didn't like it, they didn't like it. So, you know, what's the end of the world? But I was flying back from America last week and I fell asleep and I got this little tip on my shoulder and there was a little kid beside me doing the magic moment trick from the first book. And he goes,
wow.
I don't like flying. And he was just doing the magic moment. And it was with his mum. And I had 2 seats next to me, and I said, "Well, do you know what?" I said, "Sit down there, and we'll talk about it because I know a few other tricks I can teach you." And he was like, "Oh, seriously?" He was like, "Yeah, are they as good as this one?" I went, "Oh, they're better." And himself and his mother sat down beside me, and I started teaching them these other little mindfulness techniques. But in fucking 10 minutes, the guy was asleep, and by the time we got to Dublin, and he's just comfortable. And I think it's for me that's immensely important to me that young kids find this helpful, supportive, and can walk up to me on a plane and do the magic moment.
That's actually fascinating that happened. It sounds like the closing scene of a movie.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
Well, I did. Like the mother was looking at me going, "Thank God." I think she was bollocks as well. She's like, "If you fall asleep, I can fall asleep." And they weren't even their seats, like, because it was a half empty plane. And I was like, "Well, actually, can you move? Because I want to lie across those seats." Yeah. But no, that's immense stuff, and it's also immense that I have a little nephew that when he's 20 years of age, I can say I wrote them because of you, you know, and I wanted to teach you how to navigate this. And I want to make sure when you go to school or 15, 14, 16 years of age, that if you have a fucking problem, you're telling me and I'm going to help you. So that's the kind of relationship I want with my nephew. And I think having that kind of moral, personal reason for doing this type of stuff, because I said I don't have kids, but I do remember when Billy came along that he changed my life. So I could imagine what it would be like to be a father, you know, and how profoundly life-changing that would be. But I think it's kind of it's a type of love that I don't think you can measure or even define. So I think that's something I think that's very important to me, that I you know, people like that in my life that make sure that they're well looked after and that they can live in a society that if they do feel pain, that they can show it.
I think there's almost a perception of you as well, Bres, publicly, that because you're so outspoken and you campaign so much for this thing, that I don't want to use the word that you're almost cured of your anxiety, but do you still suffer daily from it? Or
yeah. I mean, it's not why I deal with it to cure it. I don't give a fuck about curing it. It's not. All I wanted was the tools to deal with it, to understand what my triggers were. Now, I've had panic disorder for 15 years. I haven't had acute panic attack in 6 years. I do believe that I've controlled that. I don't believe I'll never have another one again. Of course I will. But I was having sometimes 2 or 3 a day. I believe that anxiety is part of the brain. It's how we are. It's how we're built. If we didn't have anxiety, we'd all be dead. It's a great alarm system. It keeps us alive. And if you understand the neuroscience of the brain, it's literally only doing its job. For me, I made very clear a lot of my anxiety was being caused by who I was around and what I was consuming. And I had to change that. And that's what I did. And that had a profound impact on my life. And my anxiety is utterly under control. I have shit days, generally Tuesdays, but that's normal. And we need to be able to understand the difference between anxiety and a shit day, and depression and a shit day. Shit days are normal. They're important. You should have them, because if you're happy all the time, you're just one of those fucking weirdos that makes everyone paranoid. Life isn't like that. It's not a straight line. So just having that narrative with yourself every now and again to say, you know what, I ain't so bad. I don't need to be that. I don't need to have that. And create that narrative in your head and keep talking till your brain believes it.
Do you find as well that would it piss you off when you kind of sometimes see social media and people, you know, oh, I'm so depressed, oh, my mental health, does that mean, when you know it's kind of just reaching for likes and comments and reactions? Like,
but we don't know that, you see, and I don't take the chance. You just don't know, and you don't know what anyone's dealing with, what they've gone through, what they're dealing with or carrying. So for me, I just don't engage. You know, if what I do think it's important is that we reframe this a little bit. For somebody who was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder in his 20s, that took everything from him. Every relationship, every job, that stopped him functioning, that made his hair fall out, that darkened a lot of my life. That's an anxiety disorder. That's not anxiety. And it's important to point that out. Anxiety, or feeling overwhelmed or stressed every now and again, that's really important. But when it stops impeding on your life, it starts impeding on your life and stops you functioning. And in the same way, a shit day isn't depression. When you find it hard to wash yourself, eat, get out of bed, talk to people, you know you have to deal with it. And there's something. So it's about reframing it and saying to people, a shit day is a shit day. Even 2 shit days are 2 shit days.
I think that's where kind of the understanding is lost sometimes. You see some people have a couple of bad days in a row where things aren't going their way, and all of a sudden they're medicating themselves. And however,
yeah, well, any self-medication is not something anyone should do. We need to find good doctors, good GPs, and I had a very good GP in Dr. Healy in Mullingar that really helped me. And it's just about I under no circumstances should we create the media narrative that said, "Oh, sure, now everyone's anxious." No, don't do that. Let's not do that. That'll just put us backwards. But let's reframe it and just say, okay, guys, that's normal. But when it stops you functioning, when it really impedes on how you personally, socially, and professionally deal with the world, then you need help and you need support. And there's a fundamental difference. And also, I'm massively proud about how we're progressing society in terms of our awareness. I'm not proud of how we're progressing our systems. So that's where your energy should go now. Start demanding from your TDs, from your senators, whoever the fuck, that you want better for you, for your family, for your friends, because that's our next move, our next step now. The awareness is there. Let people talk, and let's pick this up now, and let's go at it and make sure that anyone listening to this who has kids, that we make sure they're well fucking taken care of if they need it.
Last question. I know you said you're not one for intentions, and you kind of feel that if you put it out there, sometimes you won't do it. But I asked you at the top of this about 2007 Bressie and his expectations, and would he believe he is where he is today? Where's 2031 Bressie at in 12 years' time? Instead of going back 12 years, let's go forward 12 years.
2031, I am living in Paris. My dream, to live in Paris and to be that bollocks who writes a book in a coffee shop. I'd love to be in a position in 2020, maybe having a family. I have a feeling I'm going to still be in education. I've got a bug and I want to learn. I want to keep learning. But where I am and where I want society to be, with the work that I do, I want us to be a far more empathetic society than we are at the moment. I want this fragmented bullshit that we're all dealing with to stop. We need to stop being outraged by fucking everything. It is destroying us, society. It's destroying conversation. It is not progressing us. It's regressing us. And we need to start being nicer to each other. And I think in 2031, I need to be in a position where I'm looking at a society and going, fuck man, we're doing... Because that'll make me happy. But I'll only be happy if I'm in Paris. And that's essential.